I come from a flat place with a lot of corn and some of the best barbecue in the whole wide world, and that's Kansas, and represent. Yeah, so my name's Harrison Liu, and I directed Hack KU last year, and I'm here to talk to you about how to market your event for places like Kansas, where there really isn't much of a community in the first place, and for places like KU, which isn't really tech-focused. But first, before that, let's talk about strategies for hackathon planning. So these are the 4 things that really helped shape Hack KU this year. And first and foremost is having a spectacular team. I was very lucky that most of my team members, 3 of them sitting right up front right there, were all friends. You know, these are people who shared my same passions for hackathons, and they actually really loved doing what we actually ended up doing. And that's because passion drives purpose. And, people always hear me say that quite a lot, actually. That's because I think that if we share the same passions, no matter how hard it gets, and it does get hard, in times when your marketing dollars are 0, and in times when your sponsors are also 0, it's really difficult. It really is difficult. So, it really takes a group effort to really get through those tough times. And the second thing that people should focus on in terms of a hackathon that I believe in is something I like to call absolute transparency. And I think Swift talked about it this morning during the talk. How do you get past that red tape that schools draw all over the place when you're trying to make your hackathon come true? And that's because you should be constantly talking to your dean, assistant dean members, and people like your professors and the IT team. So I was very fortunate that I was actually friends with the associate dean really well, and a lot of our team members had faculty members they were friends with, and by doing that, we were actually able to get the hackathon launched really quickly. Third most important thing is creating opportunities for less experienced hackers. So a lot of the freshmen that wanted to join the hackathon this first year struggled with finding their own identity. They struggled with finding what they wanted to do at a hackathon, and they felt like they weren't adequate enough to be a part of the hackathon. So what we did was we built a meme website, which randomly popped up a meme. You could write text on the top and the bottom. And this was written in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And we were able to teach them how to use GitHub as well. And this only took 2 hours. And by doing so, having these workshops in the beginning, we were able to ease the freshmen into that first hackathon experience, which, as Swift mentioned this morning, is about 50% of your hackers. So that is a lot of them. And to get them introduced that way is probably one of the most efficient ways of getting people into your hackathons. And finally, the challenge. A lot of hackathons get a little bad stigma because everyone thinks that a hackathon is all about sitting in a corner of a room and just programming for 36 hours, and that shouldn't be the case. Like what MLH did this morning with person bingo, we also did a person bingo, except for we messed up a little bit. We had a square where you had to find a vegan, and there was no vegans. So that was a little bit of a mistake on our part, but everyone had a lot of fun, and they really enjoyed their time, so try to engage with the community. And so moving on, how did we make Hack KU go from 50 people to 230 people in just 1 year? Good question. Well, we talked about a lot of strategies before the hackathon started. First and foremost, we approached every professor, asked for extra credit, asked for how are ways that we can get students engaged in this hackathon. We specifically targeted freshmen because those were the ones that we were concerned about that weren't going to be engaged because they didn't feel like they had the experience. We also made ourselves as available as possible. You could find us tabling, giving swag constantly to people about the hackathons. We gave stickers before the hackathon even happened, just to get people in the right mindset. And finally, we did graffiti. And basically, it's just us running around with like 20 whiteboard markers and just writing Hack KU in just big letters everywhere. So I owe Mary Siebert, who I don't know if she's in this room right now, for this idea. And she gave me the idea of something called region splitting. So we would give each team member a region near us, and they would basically contact schools. So for example, as you can see here, I was in charge of the blue region. So I had reached out to Hack K-State, and I talked to them about how we were running this Hack KU event, and we'd love to see K-State there. So this is just a fantastic way to get your team engaged and in finding the right communities and getting them in contact with the schools near you. And finally, what's most important is most hackathon participants need to find value. So you need to create that value. But a lot of the times, participants don't understand what that value is in the first place. So it's always important to emphasize what the benefits are of attending a hackathon. So for example, obviously the first and foremost is learning. You get to learn a lot at hackathon, you get to be engaged, you get to meet and network with a lot of companies, and I mean, free food and awesome prizes, I think it's a no-brainer why you should attend a hackathon, but a lot of people don't know that that's a part of the hackathon package, that it can go on your resume. It's a great way to talk to companies, so you just need to make people more aware of that. And during the hackathon, it doesn't end. You need to take a boatload of pictures. You go around and constantly interact with the participants. I try to make it my goal to talk to at least 70% of the participants that were there at the time and get an understanding of where they're coming from and what they're doing. And that just seems like a great way to interact and to engage your audience. And build your community up. Hackathons shouldn't just end. You know, when the event's over, it shouldn't just be everyone pack up and go home. You should go and promote other hackathons in your areas. That's how you're going to build your community up. So when Missouri S&T came to us in March, they had told us that they were having an event. You know, we pitched it to every single person that attended Hack KU because we believe that by letting people know about more events going on, they're able to, you know, become a part of the hacker community. And also another big thing is being able to respond to feedback and address feedback. So one of the things that we didn't realize when we had run the event is that we had a judge that was making rather rude comments when he was judging, and we wouldn't have been aware of that if we didn't take the time and talk and interact with the people that had experienced that judge. So he won't be judging with us next year. Yeah, and finally, adapt to your data. So this is probably the most important thing. Create a central dashboard. Understand who's coming and who's not coming. So initially, when we first started taking in registrations 3 months before the hackathon started, we had noticed that the male ratio was about 95%. So yeah, that is really bad. That is really, really bad. So, you know, one of the first things that we immediately started doing is started contacting women computing clubs in the area, trying to focus on, you know, diversifying our portfolio and making sure that, you know, it wasn't just a bunch of guys in a room programming, that it was guys and girls and everyone else, so that we can have a good group, a diverse group of people at the hackathon. So yeah, always make sure you adapt to data, make sure that you learn from everything that you get. So thanks for listening. Thank you.